Hello everyone and welcome back to JAS Reviews. My name is James and on this channel I do reviews of both music and movies along with the occasional commentary piece, so if any of that sounds interesting to you then I'd appreciate it if you left this video a like and subscribe to my channel to see more content like that. And today we have our last video, well my last video rather, for List Season 2022, at least the music portion of List Season. And that is the top 50 best songs of 2022. Man, I am so excited to talk about what I think are the best songs of the year. And for as much as there definitely was some undeniably bad songs this year, I will definitely admit there was a lot of bad stuff this year, I think the good ultimately outweighed the bad, to me at least. And 2022 was a pretty big year for music as well. It seemed like a lot of big artists were coming out with music this year, even more so than last year, so much so that at times it actually became sort of hard to keep up. And I didn't get to catch everything, I don't think, because there was just so much music all the time, especially in that run from October to November. There was so much music coming out. But nevertheless, I am glad that I got to witness the music I did, and I'm sure I'll still be playing catch up with this year for next year in some ways, and I still think I have a really good list of great songs that I heard that I am very excited to share with you all. So, without further ado, let's get started. And also remember that this list is just my opinion, so if you disagree with a pick, that is totally fine. And at the end of the video, when you're done watching this list, let me know what your favorite songs of the year were, because I'd love to hear your list and if there's anything you would recommend for me to check out. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get started with number 50. I will say that the 1975's album this year didn't stick with me as much as I would have hoped it did, and I think that might be partly because I didn't give it as many listens as I feel like it deserved, but this song certainly did stay with me. It shows all the band back in fine form, with a song that feels like it is right at home on their debut album, and that's probably a big reason of why I like it, because their debut still does happen to be my favorite album by them. I love how cautiously optimistic this song is, along with a saxophone solo that is just irresistible. Of all the bands that would decide to go a more metalcore adjacent route, Seventh Day Slumber would not have necessarily been at the top of my list, at least. This is the freshest the band has sounded in probably a decade, as their attempts to go back to their rock sound over the past couple of years have been mainly stale to me. This song makes them sound all very revitalized to me. The cut is somber and haunting, as Joseph Rojas contemplates letting go of guilt in losing a loved one and not saying what he wanted to say before that loved one left. There are some potentially darker implications to this song, that maybe the loved one was lost to suicide as well, making the cut pretty haunting. But I think it is ultimately redemptive, with the final line seeming to be acceptance of the loss, as Rojas says, "So long till we meet again." This is a great cut with some very cutting musicality to make the emotion hit that much harder. Demon Hunter's newest cut, Exile, is a bit tainted for me, I'll admit, with some of the manipulative messaging, but Master really stands tall as one of the band's strongest recent songs. It feels like one of their most atmospheric cuts, too, with a booming guitar riff that comes in at just the right moments to cut deep. Ryan Clark speaks of the human condition to want to bow to any worldly master that feels comfortable, and the menace that comes from his voice really fits that theme. You can feel his anger and his disappointment at people just bowing to whatever is what works best for them, and you can feel that anger through the cutting guitar riffs and through his menacing vocals. I really like how this song also takes some classic elements of Demon Hunter and innovates with them in intriguing ways. More songs from Demon Hunter like this would be awesome. I definitely wouldn't complain about it. I discussed in my worst songs list how I feel that some have been maybe a little bit cynical to the pop punk revival of past years. And I do stand by that statement, and this is going to be the first of several examples of why I believe that the revival does have some positives to it. I mean, okay, sure, you can say that this song is a little cheesy, and I wouldn't disagree. Some of the lyrics and some of the lines here seem weird in some ways, maybe coming from someone of Avril's age. But at the same time, I would argue that that's part of the point. Avril is being very carefree in this cut, and some of the youthful lyricism is rather fun rather than just being a detractor. I really like that jumpy guitar work as well, and the lively drumming from Travis Barker here as well. This is a pretty addicting song that hasn't left my rotation all year, and I'm not ashamed to admit that.
Let it roll, roll like a river, let it roll, roll.
The comeback of Rend Collective's classic folk rock worship sound was such a huge highlight for me this year. I have been desperately missing this sound from them since 2018 was the last time we truly heard it, and now it is back. Thank goodness it is. This is debatably the band's most energetic cut to date, right up there with songs like Burn Like a Star and I Will Be Undignified. I love when worship songs can make you feel the passion, and this one does the trick for me, with the natural instrumentation just being the cherry on top. Alter Bridge somehow manages to make an upbeat ballad not be an oxymoron, but rather a reality. That just shows how talented this band is. What's more, Mark Tremonti takes lead vocals on this song, and I appreciate how well he and Miles Kennedy's vocals combine in the chorus. It creates some of the most beautiful vocal harmonies of the year. The song is brimming with hope throughout, accentuated and highlighted by the gorgeous guitar work. I love how the message of the song is to just be with someone, and knowing that being with them will help you through the tough times. The band manages to deliver this message without being overly sentimental either. All the right notes are hit here, both literally and metaphorically. Pristine production and a healthy dose of 80s nostalgia do a great job at hiding the tragedy that hides beneath the layers of this song. The music is not upbeat to the point that I would call it a sad song that sounds happy, though, and I am happy about that because there's a lot of songs that do that trope and it is getting a little tired. The electronics, in my opinion, do betray some underlying darkness, and I like that it's not immediately obvious. This reflects Mitski's own emotions about this relationship, where on the surface, she's accepting that she'll be the bad guy in the relationship, but the reality is that she's the only one even trying to keep the relationship afloat. You almost feel her numb acceptance of it at this point, making the song that is one that is indeed heartbreaking, but maybe not in the ways that you're necessarily expecting.
I wanna know that I would die for you. I died for you.
I said in my review of Slipknot's album that Hive Mind was my favorite cut from the album, but I ended up really coming around on Yen. Maybe it's because it evokes so many aspects of Volume 3, which is my favorite Slipknot cut and Slipknot album still. This almost feels like a continuation of Vermilion, this desperate idea of wanting someone. But in the context of this song, it's about yearning for something that you already have, which is interesting. Still wanting something that you already have, wanting more out of it, that's a really cool idea. It's an oddly sweet love song too, as Corey expresses his feelings for his wife in a very Slipknot fashion. But that's exactly what makes it work so well, along with the song going in and out of being acoustic versus having more hard rock textures. It's a really interesting song when you end up peeling all the layers back. There is one simple reason that this made my best songs list. It is so criminally catchy. I don't think that there's another song that came out this year that had me singing along as quickly as this one did. Sometimes that is all a song needs, and man, this one has that catchy quality to it without a doubt. This is modern pop punk with elements of rap thrown in, as Tom the Mailman's feature really works here too. This is such a fun track, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't.
I can't get where I'm going if I can't leave where you've been.
For my money, this song is Luke Combs at his best. Even though I still absolutely love doing this, Outrunning Your Memory is on a different level. The attention to detail this song has is excellent. It feels like Luke is pulling you into his memories that he's trying his best to forget of a past lover. It's endlessly compelling, and then Miranda Lambert comes in and the song becomes straight up masterful. It shows how both people in the relationship are fruitlessly trying to move on, but something just keeps trying to pull them back. The way their voices combine perfectly represents the push and pull that these two have with one another. Along with the neo-traditional instrumentation, this is another example to me of why Luke Combs deserves all of the praise he gets, and maybe even more.
One mutilation under God!
I don't normally put a heavy song on my list just for the novelty that it is heavy, but I'll admit that is a big appeal for me of this Motionless in White song. It feels like every 30 seconds there is some new breakdown in the song, and it is impossible to not headbang along for my money. Chris Motionless has clearly been working on his voice, as his screams go to some levels that I was not at all prepared for. Brian Garris of Knocked Loose brings the political fury of this song home, as both artists rail against modern-day fascism. It's nice to see Motionless in White taking an actual political stance and feeling passionate about it when there are so many countless bands this year that fell short on that front. And man, if the ending of this song doesn't leave your jaw hanging on the floor, I don't know what will.
A temporary sonate!
The Devil Wears Prada has gone a lot of interesting directions with their sound, being one of the prime examples of doing experimentation right in mainstream metalcore. Hallucinate sees yet another example of this awesome risk-taking, as it's going for a electronic industrial combination that works very well for the band. It creates a stressful atmosphere that works well for the subject matter of someone who is not able to distinguish between what is real and what is fiction. The subject matter might be a little cliched on paper, but the way the band presents it actually makes it feel like someone is hallucinating with the stuttering electronics and desperate guitar riffs, along with Mike's unhinged vocal screams. This song is crazy, but in all the best ways. Lately, there's been this trend in metalcore of bands collaborating together and reimagining their songs. This happened this year with two bands that genre-wise are on pretty opposite ends of the spectrum. You have We Came as Romans, who is about as mainstream metalcore as you can get, and I don't say that as an insult, collaborating with Brand of Sacrifice, who is on the other end of the spectrum as rather intense deathcore. Combining these two talents together makes for such a fun recreation of Dark Bloom from the ground up. I think the song comes across as more propulsive here. It actually feels like someone is determined to survive the odds despite all the darkness surrounding them. Some of the screams here are straight up nasty too, and the ending breakdown feels like it should just be illegal with how much it floored me.
Sky and it was the burgundy on my t-shirt when you splashed your wine into me and how the blood rushed into my...
And now we're doing a complete 180 from intense metalcore and deathcore and going straight into a pretty accessible pop cut from Taylor Swift. But make no mistake, this song is still interesting and great in its own ways. Midnight's the album as a whole has grown on me a lot, and I've returned to it way more than I ever expected to. Maroon sees Taylor going meta, with the color-based title clearly being a reference to their past color-based album, Red. Taylor seems to be reflecting on a relationship from that time, but with a more mature and nuanced perspective now, represented by Maroon being a more darker, aka, in her view, mature version of Red. I like the darker red imagery she uses to symbolize that relationship. It's a deceptively simple choice, but the fact that she's implying a lot does make the listener have to read between the lines, something that I really like. Jack Antonoff's production on this is great, and if I'm being honest, this cut feels like what I wanted Lorde to make on her album Solar Power. It feels like a Lorde cut in many ways, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all, especially since we didn't get the Lorde that I wanted on that past album, or that a lot of people wanted. That might be a big part of the reason why I like this song so much, and I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Far from
and Below's newest album, Hell Finds You Everywhere, may have just come out a couple weeks ago, but the impact this particular song, Sabotage, had on me was so instantaneous, I just knew it would be one of my favorite songs of the year. If I'd heard this song earlier in the year, it would have likely been even higher on the list for me. Wow, this cut is just my brand of emotional hard rock. It's one of those sounds that appeals to me the most. James DeBerg's vocals are so beautiful here, and just absolutely soar in a chorus that is so devastating in discussing James's struggles with suicidal thoughts. The important and relevant subject matter will be something that a lot of people will latch onto, only making this song all the more deserving of endless praise.
All of my friends are missing again.
This might be one of Billie's most devastating cuts that she's written. I think this song is sort of a combination of what she's been doing on her past two albums. It brings some of the more nuanced writing of Happier Than Ever back, but also incorporates some of the more quiet, simplistic elements of something like When the Party's Over. The song starts as a breakup track, but it expands to being so much more. We see Billie wanting to retreat from her relationship problems by watching TV or being on social media, something I'm sure that a lot of people will be able to understand and relate to. She talks about the desire to watch other people suffer or to be mindlessly fascinated with something like the Depp versus Heard trial, all the while placing less emphasis on real-world problems. It's very much so a product of the social media world, and I don't fault Billie for it. But she seems to fault herself for it, as she sings on top of these other voices, "I'm the problem." It's something that left me feeling chills, especially as we just end with her whispered vocals. This song leaves an impact, that's for sure.
You do. You serve that, bring a bird back, alert pack, the flu. Get a knife and get a gun too. Hood niggas don't do kung fu. By the junkyard, niggas jump you.
You can tell that JID was hungry on the whole of his album this year, and nowhere is that more apparent than on this song. Much like the title implies, this song boasts an almost punk rock energy in places, as JID is practically screaming out the chorus. His verse is an absolute monster here. I implore you to try and not feel hyped up while listening to this song. His chemistry with Earth Gang is great here as well, as they all provide verses that continue to build on this absolute banger of a track. Speaking of punk energy, let's talk about a song that is just brimming with pure punk rock in every way imaginable. This song by Pink Shift has so much justified resentment in it, as the lead singer discusses how people have unfairly judged her in the past. She compares it to the Salem witch trials and sarcastically implores that they just get on with it and burn the witch if they're so sure that they're the ones in the right. The sarcasm comes across in her vocals, which have so much personality, along with the absolutely massive guitar and drum work.
Watch out.
Cause sometimes I look in her eyes and that's where I find my hips alone.
I've already talked about this song in my best hit songs of 2022, so I'll try to keep my thoughts brief on Glimpse of Us here. Let's just say that I don't think any breakup song this year has hit me as hard as this one. Joji, accompanied by just some pianos and electronics, lays out how he is only in this relationship to get glimpses of the one that he actually wants. You get the feeling in this song that this toxic relationship isn't going to be ending anytime soon either, as he continues to desperately try and find whatever remains of his past love. It's such a beautiful song, but so heartbreaking at the same time. Anberlin is back, and I couldn't be happier. I was so sad when this band broke up, as they are one of my favorite bands of all time, and them coming back was not something I expected to happen. I thought they were broken up for good. But their Silverline EP this year was great and showed that their talent had not dissipated by any means. Nowhere is this more apparent than on the song Asking, which sees the band returning back to their synth rock sound. This is the genre that the band is best at, and this may be one of the best songs that they've written within that genre. I like how optimistic and reassuring the song is overall, as Steven is imploring this person about their pain that they're clearly trying to hide. It's clear that this person needs help, but he also doesn't want to push too far and have them feeling like he's being invasive. The quiet electronics reflect his hesitation before heading into this gorgeous musical climax where the electronics explode off the page. It leaves me with chills every time I hear it. There aren't too many bands like Amberlin that can nail this type of song. I can't wait to see what this band does next, and I really hope that there is an album on the way soon because you know that I am just absolutely looking forward to that. With Taking Me Back, it feels like White took mainstream rock in some of the most interesting directions it's ever been. I'm not even sure if I can accurately describe it. The guitar work on this song is just really unique, as are the drum patterns. This is such a fun track that shows why Jack White is one of the most innovative artists out there. I'm so glad that I gave Carly Rae Jepsen more chances all those years ago, besides just dismissing her as the person who made Call Me Maybe, which is a song that has grown on me, by the way. And let's not dismiss Carly Rae Jepsen's importance to pop music. Talking to Yourself is a song that, in a more just world, would have been a hit on the Billboard Hot 100, because it is a bop in every way, shape, and form. This song has everything that a good pop cut should have. Excellent production quality, beautiful vocals, and a chorus that just works in what it does. I love the little pause that Carly does in the chorus between your and self just to let a little bit of that tension in. This song is awesome and deserves way more love than it has.
Telling you to bite down and face it. You're never gonna do much to change shit. When all you say is fuck that, fuck this, don't let them side.
Body Bag by I Prevail is definitely one of the most addicting tracks of the year. I've had this one on repeat ever since it came out. And if there's one thing that I Prevail knows how to do, it's hooking people in with their new album rollout with a superb lead single. This song may not be quite as good of a lead as Bow Down was, but man, it comes pretty close. I just love how unpredictable this cut is throughout. It shifts from one place to another, and on your first listen, you just don't see it coming. The song is also just so much fun. As you can tell, both lead vocalists are having a blast throughout the song. Eric's screams have only gotten better, and I think Brian has gotten way more interesting as a clean vocalist.
But I cannot take the pressure in my lungs. Write the words out.
Man, Time the Valuator has had such a rough time of it. They've lost their superb lead vocalist after only one album. They did get a new one fairly fast, and I thought that he was really close in quality, if not just as good as their first vocalist. But then, after that new vocalist was only a part of 2 songs, they left as well. I was left feeling very concerned for the future of this band, but somehow they were able to find yet another vocalist, and miraculously, this one is awesome too. Blackwater sees the band's signature complex lyrics, this time centering on addiction, especially the ones that we can't see. It's an interesting concept that is explored through complex instrumentation with the keyboard really shining bright here. I am so glad that this band appears to still be active, and I hope that we get a new album out of them next year because I have been looking forward to one ever since their superb debut. Check this band out if you haven't, by the way, because if you haven't, you're really missing out on some quality music.
No, it can't get easier. Dealing with the pain. We're watching through.
I love the rare times when Tuck O'Leary gets to take lead on a Fit for a King song, as the results are pretty much always quality. This is once again the case on Reaching Out, one of Fit for a King's best ballads. Lyrically, the song is pretty straightforward, being a reassurance to someone going through hard times. The vocal delivery is what gets the song out on top for me, as Tuck's vocals make the subject matter feel like it has a lot more weight to it, and the directness of what he's saying feels inspired rather than simplistic. Add that on to the fact that when you read the backstory of the lyrics, that it's actually meant to be Ryan Kirby reaching out to his adopted niece and nephew who came from an abusive home, and then the song turns into an absolute tearjerker that might be one of Fit for a King's best songs in general. I'm wearing their shirts, so you know I'm a fan of them, and this song continues to prove why they are one of the best metalcore bands to do it right now.
I see the wind and water shifting at the shades of the sun. I feel the cold up in his ship as all the torrents collide.
Wolves at the Gate taking influence from While She Sleeps was not something I at all expected, but I'm not going to complain about it. I love when this band gets more upbeat and fun, as this is not usually the type of music we get from them. This song uses the biblical story of Peter walking on water as an overall message for someone being tested in desperate circumstances. They see that everything is collapsing around them, and so all they can do is close their eyes and kiss the wave. The band is symbolically saying here that the person chooses to trust in God in the midst of surrounding death and destruction. There's not many Christian bands who can make the weight of a song be felt, especially one with this subject matter, but Wolves at the Gate perfect that here. That Rina Sawayama's album this year caught a lot of unfair flack just for the fact that it was different from her previous album. No, I don't think that Hold the Girl overall is as good as Sawayama, but it still got a little overhated, I feel. This song is a primary example of the best that the album has to offer. I like the combination of Japanese and British pop influences the song has, which is sort of representative of what the song is about, the relationship between Rina and her mother. The song details all the complications that came with Rina's mother being a single mom, but through all the highs and lows, there would be the possibility that both of them would be there to catch each other if they fell. I love how that inspirational idea comes through the gorgeous bridge that just builds and builds until there's this irresistible release where Rina's vocals soar. This song is so confident in what it's doing, and it shows Sawayama at the top of her game. Don't let this album go underrated. Give it another chance if you haven't, and especially give this song another chance because I think Rina does something really special here. I'm not even sure where to begin with this epic, almost 15-minute song. What's truly impressive is not once does the song get boring or falter. It continues to stay thoroughly engrossing, telling the story of an epic adventure. I can only describe it as if you're listening to a movie. There are so many cool progressions to the song. Honestly, I don't want to say much more about it. You just have to experience it for yourself. It is pure musical mastery, and I promise you won't be disappointed no matter what genre you're a fan of. I wasn't expecting Spiritbox to come out with new music so soon, but it's clear after the immense success of their excellent debut album that they are still on a creative high. This track is pretty representative of the Rotoscope EP, which is a big change of the band's sound. It leans into some more straight-up rock and heavier electronic influences, but that doesn't mean that the band's identity is totally gone. This song is proof of that as it builds to a breakdown that is just wild and mind-bending. The song always feels like it's building to that breakdown too. It's not there to just be there. Rather, the whole song feels like it's barely holding on and then the levee breaks. Courtney's screams are some of the best in metalcore right now, as is her simply ethereal singing voice. This band is not going to be a one-trick pony, something that I am very happy about.
It's bigger than me.
Boston Manor is one of the best voices in modern rock, which is why it is a shame that they aren't that big. They have some select songs that are popular, but as a whole, they deserve far more recognition. I've been very impressed at their consistency since Welcome to the Neighborhood. They've continued to try new things with each album, and although I do prefer their harder rock sound from their album Glue, the change to pop electronic rock for Passenger fits this band like a glove. Not to mention that this song feels nostalgic as it's drawing some clear inspiration from Linkin Park. The song doesn't feel like a rip-off or anything like that either, as the band puts their own spin on it. This song relies on its chorus heavily as its big sell, and thankfully that pays off for them in spades.
The number don't change, I know who the chemist is. Brick by brick, we kept open dealerships. Mitch by Mitch, we built up our village.
Pusha T has never felt more menacing than on this cut. This song is direct and straightforward in its attack, as Push implores any other rapper that wants to challenge him to remember who they're dealing with. The threat feels warranted too, as Pusha T's bars on here hit as hard as ever. The incorporation of a Joker laugh could be in danger of being cringeworthy, but the way it's done in the song is smart and feels like a combination of menacing and fun. The beat is raw, leaving the spotlight on Push himself. I also can't help but admit that I loved hearing him call out Drake again for the Story of a Day-Dawn incident. This is a great rap cut from all angles and shows Pusha T as one of the modern day best to do it.
I don't know who I can trust anymore.
This was my my most listened to song on Spotify, and for good reason. It is unbelievably addicting and a perfect example of mainstream metalcore done right. It doesn't necessarily innovate or do anything particularly game-changing, but not all songs have to do that. This song is just a quality metalcore cut, pure and simple. It's also nice to see Maddie Mullins actually having something interesting to say, which is thankfully the case for the majority of Remade in Misery, the latest Memphis May Fire album. This song talks about the political state of the world, but isn't necessarily choosing a side. I know I've said songs like this usually irritate me to no end, but with this song, it works. I think this is because Maddie is leaning into the existential dread he has about the fact that the America that he used to love is almost entirely dead. People don't care about each other anymore, and there is deception of all types out in the political realm. I think that framing works and makes this one of the better centrist songs out there. Plus, that chorus is really fun, along with the frantic breakdown.
I don't wanna sacrifice.
It may not be Blinding Lights, but then again, there aren't many pop songs out there that can match up to that masterpiece. Sacrifice still stands on its own merits, I think. First of all, that bass groove is just undeniably fun. It's something that gets my head bobbing every time I hear it. Abel's vocals evoke Michael Jackson inspiration more than ever, and it works so well for him. And then there's the genius way that his singing style represents his different states of mind. In the verses, his voices clash against the frantic bass, which represents his complications on whether he wants to change who he is just to satisfy this girl he likes. But then the chorus comes in and his vocals go against that much smoother synth, representing how he has decided that he won't change just to please someone else. I put this as the best hit song of 2022, and I more than stand by that.
Sometimes you just can't fix it. You love somebody, but you gotta let him go.
Sigurd's album this year was overall sort of disappointing to me, but I am glad we got it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten what is her best song to date. Wow, everything about this song just clicked for me the first time it hit my ears. The way the orchestral elements combined with the guitars and the electronics is done so well. It makes the song feel a combination of epic and fun. And then the orchestration cuts in for some of the darker sounding guitars with Sigurd's gorgeous vocals, detailing her feelings about this toxic relationship she's in. Her desperation to try and fix it is clear, but then comes the release in the chorus. The orchestration comes back in along with Sigurd trying to let go, or deciding rather, to let go of the relationship and all the baggage with it. The final iteration of the chorus feels euphoric and definitive, with Sigurd's vocals going to new heights. Just an excellent pop song through and through. Sometimes it is necessary to burn bridges, and Sigurd is more than convincing of proving that point. There are some songs out there that just bring the emotion through so viscerally that it's impossible to describe unless you experience it for yourself. This is one of those songs. The first time I heard this track, I just had to sit back for a little bit and comprehend what I just listened to. I don't know if I've ever heard a breakup song have this intimate of a way of expressing its emotion. The song just nails it on the head with some vocals that will put tears in your eyes. This band is something special. I know they're critical darlings, but there is a good reason for that. Believe the hype. This isn't something you hear every day.
What I want the full effects. I wanna hit it hard. I wanna dance in the middle of it.
The pop trio Muna is so talented, and I am glad that they're getting some more recognition. The band does a great job of combining indie and mainstream elements of pop, which really helps them appeal to a wider audience. I'm sure a lot of people in the LGBT community really connect with them as well, especially with songs like this that show the band members letting loose and expressing themselves fully. The chorus is one of the most life-affirming choruses I've heard in the most fun way possible of the meaning of that. I mean, come on, how can you not sing along to this song? Its propulsive disco beat feels meant for the nightclub life, and the gang vocals are practically an invitation for everyone to join in on the party. That is what this song feels like. It's a party and everyone's invited, so long as you're willing to be accepting. Go ahead and jump on this bandwagon now, because I guarantee that they're going to get big, being that they're a part of Taylor Swift's big tour this year. You're going to want to get in on this party early, trust me. It's a fun one, and you do not want to miss out.
Don't
day is close at hand. I'll book the marching band to play as you speak.
Never has the ending of a relationship felt more epic and packed with weight for me than in this song. This is perhaps one of the most genius breakup tracks I've heard, and perhaps it's because everything about it feels so big. You feel Lizzie's pessimism about the relationship and how she always feels like she plays backstage in it. She represents this in the fact that she even feels if, like, the relationship were to end, the other partner would selfishly act like it was their plan all along. The lyrics show this in a darkly sarcastic way with lines like, "Doomsday is close at hand, I'll book the marching band as you speak," showing that she feels like she has no voice. It's a smart cut with beautiful swelling orchestration as well, as Lizzie's powerful vocals only serve to make it work that much better. What a chaotic track, but I mean that in the best way possible. Black Midi is a group that hasn't necessarily clicked for me in the past, but their album this year really worked for me. I should probably give their work in the past another shot, don't you think? The frenzy of band instrumentation here, along with the monstrous guitar work, are the star of the show for sure, representing a truly hellish landscape. But the lyrics shouldn't go ignored either, as the hell here is specifically shown from the perspective of a corrupt military commander who is berating another soldier for their PTSD from killing other people. It's clear here that the stage for hell is war itself, and it works. You feel the terror here, especially as Geordie's vocals get more and more unhinged as the commander continues to justify the atrocities of war. It's a pretty chilling song that stays with you long after it's over.
But in a most familiar way.
This song is described by the band Gang of Youths as a tribute to the struggles of Pacifica immigrants who are treated harshly by the people who used and abused them for cheap labor. The song is heartbreaking coming from that perspective, as David paints a picture of an immigrant who sees the land they came to as a place where they want to belong, but instead are greeted with hatred. And yet, through it all, the symbolic immigrant tries to find the upside of it. He is determined to remain optimistic and find the love he has for the culture, his own culture, within him. The song musically paints his cautious optimism, and it feels well earned. I like how the song has a huge build-up, starting with a simplistic guitar riff, and then just continuing to add things naturally on top of it. The song has a very relevant message, and should hold a lot of power for years to come.
Celebrate new life when they come back around. The purpose is in the lessons we learning now. Sacrifice personal gain over every.
For as many quality tracks as there undeniably are on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, it was ultimately the promotional lead single that won out for me. Perhaps it's because the song has a lot of vibes of To Pimp a Butterfly coming from it, which is probably my favorite Kendrick cut. His raps just work so naturally against the jazz-infused beats, and some of the best production of any rap cut released this year. This song is probably one of Kendrick's best, as the message of it comes through loud and clear. We see Kendrick tracing the history of black trauma dating back to slavery, and then moving forward to talking about black celebrities, some of whom are already controversial, like O.J. Simpson, Will Smith, or Kanye West. No matter what your feelings on these people are, I think that Kendrick wants to bring across one clear message: hurt people, hurt people. He also takes this track to honor figures who have passed on that have been influential to him, such as Kobe Bryant and Nipsey Hussle. All this subject matter comes together and coalesces in a beautiful way, with Kendrick simply begging for humanity to love, in spite of the many flaws of the human heart. I think this is just a great message that almost anyone should be able to get behind. And now we get into our top 10, and wow, this was so hard to narrow down. All 10 of these songs are great, and it was hard to rank them, but I feel like I've done so in a way that satisfies me. And we're starting with Zen by Northlane, off their album Obsidian, an album which was a pretty significant evolution for this band. This song reflects the nu metal EDM style they were adapting in some places, but also boasts an alternative rock feel in other areas. This can be especially felt in the guitar solo that I never saw coming the first time I heard it. It's positively euphoric, just sending you over the top in a song that already has a beautiful chorus. I love how this song is just about letting go of all your inhibitions and insecurities and accepting yourself in the moment. You can feel yourself going into a different place along with the band, and the experience is one that is indescribable at times. I would love to see Northlane do more rock-leaning cuts like this one in the future because they are great at it. I am happy to say that Ghost's album Impera grew on me big time. I would bump my rating up to a 4 out of 5 stars now, and would even say that it's one of my top 20 favorite albums of the year. That also ended up happening with Watcher in the Sky. This was not initially my favorite song on the album, but the more I heard it, the more I loved it. It's classic rock to the extreme, with some booming guitar riffs that feel bigger than life. It makes sense too because the song is about trying to find God using science. Ghost describes it as a song of regression. I could see finding God as not only being about finding the God of the Bible, but also relying on government entities to be God. The song describes the human condition of innovating, but also not caring about those innovations in favor of trying to answer some sometimes unanswerable existential questions. It's a biting satire that works very well in what it's trying to do. It's not typical for me that a cover song makes it this high on a favorite songs list, but much like the rest of Punch Brothers' cover album Hell on Church Street, they take these two songs and make them their own, so much so that it doesn't even feel like a cover song, it feels like an original. This group needs to do progressive folk music more often. It's a genre that seems like it wouldn't work, but this group just owns it. And of course they do. They are some of the most talented musicians working right now for my money. The lyrics are of course written by other people, but it feels like the band penned them themselves, as Chris Stiles sings out with such conviction that it seems like he's telling his own story. I love how the song ebbs in and out of intensity, just keeping you on your toes throughout, and keeping you endlessly engaged throughout the whole runtime. 2022 was apparently a year where devastating relation anthems just worked for me, and this song is yet another example of that. Just Pretend is an interesting one, though, because it sees Noah taking on the perspective of someone who is clearly in self-denial about how bad their relationship is. But the self-denial is mutual in this case. Both people in the relationship know that the other person is bad for them. They fake smiles and wonder if the other person is going to wait it out and then drown in the process. And then the tragic answer comes through in the criminally beautiful chorus where the solution is that they'll both continue to play like everything is alright, and the vicious cycle continues. There's a deeper reason for the relationship to continue though. Both people are desperately seeking validation as Noah plaintively asks, "Will you say I'm worthy?" And it feels genuine when he asks that. It's so heartbreaking. I really loved the whole of The Death of Peace of Mind, but I think this song does the best at balancing the pop, rock, and metal elements that the whole album boasts. Bad Omens really came through with this one, and as a whole, I was so glad I was able to connect with them this year. They're a talented band, and I'm so happy that was able to happen. Denzel Curry making the best punk rap song of the year makes all the sense in the world to me. It's clear that the guy has been inspired by punk for years. His songs have always had that aggression to them, with a lot of songs on Taboo almost getting to the level of punk rock for me. But I think this might be the best showing of that genre yet. This song does a good job of encapsulating a lot of the themes for Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Denzel puts himself firmly in a position of responsibility where he wants to lead other people to see the problems with the world that they might be closing their eyes to right now. He speaks to the violence that black people have faced, which has robbed them of a potential of a great life. You can feel his anger in that. And Slow Tie's great chorus shouldn't go unnoticed either, as it's pure hype fuel and the payoff of the intensity that builds up for Denzel's verses. This might be my favorite Denzel cut yet, and it certainly cements him as my favorite rapper of all time. Dayseeker went almost full-on pop this year, and it was to their benefit in my opinion. This song is proof of that. Wow, what a track. What this song does is so deceptively simple. It starts out with some subtle electronics and guitar work, and Rory's iconic voice as he describes this girl who only uses him when they need him. There's some clear resentment here, which builds and builds, and you expect the song to explode in anger, but instead the opposite happens. Instead, you can feel Rory's sadness as he simply asks, "How do you feel the same without me?" All the music cuts out and it's just him, and then that drop happens. Man, that drop. It is so effective. I love how the second chorus doesn't just repeat that either, and instead adds in guitar work and drumming to make the chorus hit even harder. The ending is just Rory showing off at this point, and he's pretty much earned it. He has the right to show off in this song. This is yet another iconic track from Dayseeker, and it seems to me that they can just do whatever they want and they'll still sound great.
So take me down to the river.
To simply call Ethel Cain a country artist would be far from painting the whole picture and a disservice to the wide variety of genres she encompasses. Family Tree certainly has some elements of country in it, but they're mainly sidelined for some rock, alternative, and even slowcore genre elements. This song is sort of insane in what it does in its 7-minute runtime, and I absolutely love it. The beginning of the song is brimming with menace as Ethel lays out in starkly plain detail her religious trauma represented by the crosses that are still across her body. I can't state enough how much I love her voice here and the underlying darkness that is within it. It is so good. But the pain is festering, and it's only a matter of time before the trauma becomes external as Ethel sings darkly, "Let Christ forgive me for the bones I'm hiding and the bones I'm about to leave." Whew. Pure chills come up my spine every time the ending happens, where the instruments and Ethel's vocals just go off the page in one of the best moments of music this year. What a powerful cut on an album that deserves even more love than it already has. Please, please, please check this one out. It's a very special release from this year. Thornhill took a huge risk this year with such a total reinvention of their sound. I'd debate that the Darkpool had small elements of shoegaze in it, but they were so quiet, it might as well have not been there. Their album Heroin, though, totally embraces this sound, along with a thick, dark atmosphere that permeates the whole listen. This album was controversial, undoubtedly, but I loved almost every second of it. Blue Velvet showed me the best of what this release had to offer. What a hauntingly beautiful song, filled with clear longing for a relationship that may be out of the lead singer's reach. I love how desperately reassuring the song is, though, and you can feel how much the protagonist of the song cares. The way Jacob sings out, "I'm enough to be safe," is filled with passion and conviction. The song has so many intimate moments in it too, with just Jacob, sparse electronics, and subtle drumming. Those intimate moments only serve to accentuate the massive ending this song has, in which everything pays off in the most satisfying way possible. I might like this song off of the deluxe edition of Era Self-Titled more than every song on the album proper, and that is saying something considering I gave that album a perfect rating. But wow, this song is just such a masterpiece in every sense of the word. I am all too happy to give Era my number 2 spot for a second year in a row because they more than deserve it. This song has an apocalyptic feeling, especially in that chorus where Jesse goes off with some of his most euphoric yet foreboding vocals to date. JT Cavill's screams are monstrous too, giving off this feeling that he's weary, yet all too aware of the weight of the world that is on his shoulders. I'm not sure if there's any other metalcore or gent band that does their craft better than Era, as the song is just on another level and cements them as one of my favorite bands of all time.
Silencing the angels in the better part of you, calling on the shadow from the bitter.
And at number 1, we have Face It by Nothing More, which more than deserves the spot. I feel as though it's been ages since I've been able to give a proper rock song my favorite song of the year, so I'm glad that it finally happened again. But it shouldn't be too surprising coming from Nothing More, one of the best faces in modern rock. They are doing something so many mainstream rock bands aren't. They're taking risks. I mean, what a crazy concept. But seriously, the band, whose sound I already love, leans in even more so to their insanely unpredictable style on Face It. This song really leans into some metal, almost djent tendencies as well, even having what could definitely be called a breakdown. The guitar work here is so unique. It sounds very different from other rock groups, and it slams so hard. Johnny Hawkins is an insanely talented vocalist, going from some gritty, high-pitched screams to lower, clean singing in some parts. In 6 minutes, this song goes all sorts of different directions, but still feels purposeful with the consistent subject matter of the necessity of facing the darker parts of yourself, no matter how much you don't want to. There needs to be more rock like this out there. Innovation can still happen in the rock genre, and I'm glad Nothing More was a band to show that this is still a possibility. And a masterful one at that. So yeah, those were my favorite songs of 2022, the top 50. What were your favorite songs of the year? Let me know in the comments down below. And folks, that ends the music portion of list season, but we are not done with the season entirely yet. In January, I will be moving on to movies. It will be a little bit before my movie lists come out. I'm going to be taking a small break, and you will probably be seeing maybe a couple reviews coming out in that time, but don't be 100% sure that'll happen. I'm almost to 100 subscribers, which is awesome, and if I get that by the new year, that'll be an awesome New Year's gift. So if you do like this video, then please be sure to like and subscribe, because I am literally 2 subscribers away from 100, and that would be so cool to happen before the year ends. But nevertheless, my name is James, and on this channel I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece, and movie list season is on the way soon. But until then, I will see you all in the next video.